My brother tried to throw me out of our family estate 3 days after our grandfather's funeral. Not eventually, not through lawyers first, immediately. The funeral flowers were still outside the house when he started changing the locks. I remember standing in the driveway, staring at the locksmith truck, trying to convince myself there had to be some misunderstanding. Because grief makes your brain slow. You expect cruelty from strangers, not from someone who stood beside you at a funeral 2 days earlier, pretending to mourn with you. The estate had been in our family for decades. Huge wraparound porch, too much land, too many memories. The kind of place people fight over quietly long before anyone dies. And apparently, my brother had already started. My grandfather raised me there after my parents divorced. While my brother spent his 20s disappearing between business ideas and gambling debt, I was the one helping manage the property. Doctor appointments, maintenance, medication schedules. Grandpa used to joke that I knew more about the estate than the accountants did. At the time, I thought he was just being sentimental. The morning after the funeral, my brother transformed into someone I barely recognized. Cold, efficient, transactional. He started talking about asset management before half the relatives had even left town. Then his wife joined in. At brunch, she casually asked whether I had started apartment hunting yet. I remember blinking at her because the sentence genuinely didn't register. Then my brother answered for her. Well, eventually the estate will need to be liquidated. I stared at him across the table. What are you talking about? He sighed immediately, like I was being difficult instead of blindsided. The property taxes alone are insane. There it was, acting concerned, reasonable, responsible. Meanwhile, he had spent years barely visiting our grandfather unless he needed money. I looked down at my coffee, trying to stay calm, because deep down, something already felt wrong. Not emotionally, legally. My grandfather wasn't careless. There was no chance a man who spent 40 years managing commercial real estate forgot to organize his estate properly. But before I could say anything else, his wife leaned forward and smiled tightly. You've had enough time here already. Enough time. Like my entire childhood inside that house was some temporary inconvenience they were finally correcting. 3 days later, I came back from the funeral director and found the locksmith truck parked outside. That's when the argument finally exploded. What the hell is this? My brother barely looked guilty. We need to secure the property. Then he handed me an envelope. Inside was a typed notice from his attorney, recommending I vacate the estate within 14 days. I actually laughed reading it, because the audacity felt unreal. My brother crossed his arms impatiently. This doesn't have to get ugly. And in that exact moment, something clicked in my memory. A conversation with my grandfather 6 months earlier. Him asking strange questions about property deeds while we sat on the porch together. At the time, I thought he was rambling. Now, I wasn't so sure. That memory stayed with me the entire drive home, because my grandfather had repeated the same sentence 3 times that afternoon.
Old man wisdom. No, it sounded more like a warning. That night, I started digging through old files. Tax files, insurance renewals, property records. At first, everything looked normal. The estate sat inside a family holding structure, exactly what I expected. But around midnight, I found something strange. An old county transfer document from 4 years earlier. My grandfather's signature was on it, so was a second name. Mine? I stared at the screen for several seconds trying to process what I was seeing, because according to the filing, a portion of the estate ownership had already been transferred, long before he died, to me. Not verbally promised, legally recorded. My hands started shaking immediately, because if this document was valid, then my brother either hadn't checked ownership records properly, or he was hoping I never would. The next morning, I drove directly to the county records office. The woman behind the counter looked bored at first, then her expression changed slightly. My stomach tightened instantly. What? She turned the monitor toward herself again, scrolled once, then looked back at me carefully. You're listed as partial deed holder. I swallowed hard. How much of the property? She clicked through additional records, then said the number slowly. 51%. I actually stopped breathing for a second. Not half, not shared equally. Majority ownership. Which meant one thing immediately. My brother never had authority to remove me from the estate in the first place. The locksmith, the eviction notice, all of it calculated on one assumption, that I would never look. And suddenly, everything about my grandfather's behavior during his final year made sense. He knew exactly what was going to happen after he died, and apparently, he planned for it. I requested certified copies of every document before leaving, because emotionally, I was still grieving him. Meanwhile, legally, he had just protected me in a way I never saw coming. My phone buzzed suddenly. My brother. I let it ring twice before answering. His tone was immediately irritated. "Where are you?" Not, "How are you?" "Where are you?" Like he already viewed me as a problem delaying his plans. I answered calmly, "At the county records office." Silence. Then his voice changed completely. "What?" And right there, before I said another word, I knew. He had no idea the deed existed either. The silence lasted long enough for me to hear his breathing change. Fast, uneven. Then he laughed once. Forced. "Why would you be there?" I looked down at the certified documents in my lap. Grandpa transferred ownership before he died. Another silence. Longer this time. Then immediately, "That doesn't make sense." Interesting response. Not, "What are you talking about?" "That doesn't make sense," like he was trying to understand how he missed it. I leaned back quietly. "It's legally recorded." His tone sharpened. "How much?" Not grief, not confusion. Calculation? 51%. This time he didn't answer at all. Then finally, "You're lying." But his voice betrayed him, because people only accuse you of lying that quickly, when they're already afraid the truth is real. I drove back to the estate an hour later. The locksmith truck was gone. When I walked through the front doors, the atmosphere inside had changed completely. My brother and his wife were waiting in the dining room, not angry anymore, nervous. His wife stood up too quickly when I entered. We probably got off on the wrong foot. My brother stepped forward carefully. "We should sit down and discuss this rationally." I placed the certified documents directly on the dining table between us. Neither of them touched the papers immediately. They could already feel the shift before reading a single page. Finally, my brother grabbed the documents and started scanning them, faster, then slower. Then back to the beginning again, and little by little, the color disappeared from both of their faces. Because the deed was airtight. Majority ownership transferred 4 years earlier. Irrevocable. Witnessed. My grandfather had protected the estate from exactly the kind of liquidation my brother planned, and he trusted me enough to control it after he died. That realization hit harder emotionally than I expected, because suddenly I understood something painful too. Grandpa knew who my brother really was, long before I did. Maybe that's what hurt most. My brother finally looked up from the papers, actually speechless. Then quietly, "You knew?" I shook my head slowly. "No." And that was true. I didn't know. But my grandfather did. That's the difference. His wife tried one last time. We can still work something out. We, not family, not grief, business. I looked around the dining room slowly. The old chandelier, the wood floors my grandfather restored himself, my entire childhood still sitting inside those walls. Then I looked back at both of them. "You tried to remove me from my own home," 4 days after his funeral. Neither of them answered, because there wasn't a defense for that, just greed. And finally, for the first time since the funeral, I felt something other than grief. Clarity. The estate belonged to the person who stayed, when everyone else treated it like future money.